Hi, welcome to the second lecture for the second week of Allied Health. We're going to start with Chapter 13, Section 2, Preventing Accidents and Injuries. So we're going to focus on MIOSHA, which is Michigan's Occupational Safety and Health Administration, and then we're going to move into MSDS, which is Material Safety Data Sheets, and the Occupational Exposure to Hazardous Chemicals Standard. So OSHA is a part of the Department of Labor for the state. They are the ones that enforce safety standards in the workplace. So if you ever worked a part-time job anywhere or a job in that for any matter, they have to have posted somewhere visible the Michigan workplace standards. Usually it shows posted the national or the state minimum wage, but it'll also, if you read through it, it'll say some of their requirements of the employers that they have right on there. So I have this MIOSHA video. Now, mind you, this is only for Michigan, but all the states have a similar OSHA program.
This year, the Michigan Occupational Safety and Health Administration, also known as MIOSHA, is celebrating its 40th anniversary. That's 4 decades of keeping Michigan safe and healthy at work. Michigan workplaces are far safer today than they were in 1975, the year that MIOSHA became effective. We have seen an overall downward trend in injuries, illnesses, and fatalities on the job. MIOSHA has a duty to enforce workplace safety and health regulations, and we strive to do that in a fair and consistent manner. But we're also committed to partnering with employers and employees through our consultation, education, and training services. MIOSHA has many consultation services. Those include alliances, partnerships, and recognition programs to connect MIOSHA to industry and to recognize employers for their safety and health achievements.
The mission of the Wage and Hour program is to fairly and efficiently enforce the laws that protect the wages and fringe benefit of Michigan employees. An employee that believes they're owed unpaid wages or fringe benefits may file a complaint with the Wage and Hour program. Employers or employee groups that want more information about the laws that we enforce may contact our office. We arrange speaking engagements, and we also have publications online in English, Spanish, and Arabic that provide more information about the laws we enforce. I have been with the Wage and Hour program for 20 years, and in that period of time, we've collected millions of dollars in unpaid wages for Michigan workers, and we've also educated employers on what the requirements are of the laws that we enforce. We're here to help Michigan employers and employees.
The Construction Division enforces the construction safety and health regulations, but employers and employees can call up to our office and speak with representatives to see how what they are performing can be handled in a situation that's compliant with our rules and regulations. It's very important for the employers and employees to follow these regulations because even though only 4% of the Michigan workforce is engaged in construction activities, they comprise 40% of the fatalities program-related that occur in Michigan. Once a year, we have enforcement personnel perform consultation activities in which it's called Take a Stand for Safety Day. And this is where employers can outreach to us so they can have an inspection where it's only consultative activities being performed.
The Radiation Safety Section is responsible for the registration of and regulatory inspection of X-ray machine facilities throughout the state of Michigan. There are about 10,000 X-ray facilities in the state with about 29,000 X-ray machines that we visit. We investigate high dose exposure to people and patients, and we regulate that as well. And they can benefit from our department by going to our website and investigating how they can best be protected from high exposure to radiation.
The mission of the
General Industry Safety and Health Division is to enforce MIOSHA workplace rules in general industry. In the 15 years that I've worked here, we have the tools and the talent to help people send their people home safe and healthy every day so that they can pick their kids up and so they're able to come to work tomorrow too. This is a human resource, and by protecting that resource, everything you do gets better. Quality, productivity, reliability is improved by having your folks safe and healthy at work.
MIOSHA has a lot of services for helping employers within the working environment, such as the consultation and education group, as a way that they can get training and have a risk-free method of asking questions to get answers about common issues that they deal with out there in the field. We also have an on-site consultation team where we can go out to their places of employment and conduct inspections without issuing citations so that they can get hazards that they have on their job site identified and corrected without fear of penalty for that. There's a long-term benefit to an employer to emphasize safety and health in their workplace, not only from a productivity standpoint, but also from the risk that they have at the bottom line. So a lot of it's risk control and long-term sustainability for an organization.
I think people should know that, MIOSHA really is about helping people and businesses. So there's nothing to be afraid of. It's really that we are here to help, whether it be enforcement or the consultation group. You can ask any of us any questions. Please use our website. We have a lot of great resources there. We really want to help employers get the tools they need to be in compliance. It's not about being punitive. It really is about being helpful.
As you can see, MIOSHA is all about being proactive. We're here to help ensure safe and healthful workplaces, and we have great education and tools available to help create effective safety and health management systems. MIOSHA is dedicated to protecting Michigan's working men and women, and we welcome the opportunity to partner with employers and employees to continue making a difference in the lives of Michigan workers and their families.
All right. So that's MIOSHA. Deal with mainly safety. And making sure that employers have a safe environment for their employees. So I'll start with the occupational exposure to hazardous chemicals. So this makes employers inform all of their employees of what kind of hazards could be in that workplace. It can be physical or chemical, but we'll work on chemical here. So any sort of chemicals, any sort of liquids, manufacturers must have an MSDS or a material safety data sheet for anything that they may sell that may have some sort of hazard to it, may be harmful in some way. And then employers need to provide specialized training for their employees. So I kind of pulled a video on MSDS sheets. It's really quick, but it kind of goes over all the requirements that should be on an MSDS sheet. Because if you ever have a chemical spill, anything like that, you need to be able to see how to handle it.
Hi, this is Bob Kilner again with the 7th video in my YouTube video series, which is going to discuss how to read a material safety data sheet or MSDS sheet. So first thing we need to know is what an MSDS sheet is. All chemicals are required to have an MSDS sheet made up for them. An MSDS sheet contains various properties of the substance, including physical data and safety information. Now, one of the big things in Ohio, where I'm from, is what is known as Jared's Law. Jared's Law is named after a kid named Jared who was tragically killed in an accident in their cafeteria, where a cafeteria table that folds up fell on him and killed him. Now, all of a sudden, they passed several different measures, and Jared's Law, the actual booklet for it's probably about 10 pages thick of different requirements. We're not allowed to have any liquids in our classroom anymore unless they have an MSDS sheet. So a lot of teachers that used hand sanitizer and even soap, things like that, we have to have MSDS sheets for them now, explaining their hazards and reactivity and things like that. So why are the MSDS sheets useful?
They're mainly used in the occupational settings only. They're not really used in personal settings, but MSDS sheets provide valuable data for safe use and potential hazards that could come about from using the given chemical. But because different companies provide different chemicals, different MSDS sheets can be made up for different variations of the same substance. So two soaps that are almost identical, one being the name brand product, one being a generic product, we could have completely different MSDS sheets based on how they were produced, and just one little difference in them could change the reactivity of the entire chemical. So what data do MSDS sheets contain? All countries and suppliers have different forms of MSDS sheet, so we'll concentrate on the US version in this PowerPoint. The form itself contains data on boiling point, melting point, specific gravity, solubility, appearance, odor, reactivity, flammability, and how to handle these, among others. So this is an example of the physical and chemical characteristics section, section 3 of an MSDS sheet, and section 4, which is fire exposure hazard data. Now if you look, you can see they talk about boiling point, vapor pressure, vapor density, solubility, appearance and odor, specific gravity, melting point, evaporation rate, ignition temperature, which is flammability temperature, and auto ignition temperature. The fire and explosion hazard data tell us the flash point, the flammability limits, how to extinguish it, which is very important if it catches on fire, because different things are going to obviously have to be put out differently, special firefighting procedures, and unusual fire and explosion hazards. Now these are all extremely important because obviously different chemicals react different ways. If we're using phosphorus in the lab, phosphorus itself has an ability to explode in air, so different chemicals are going to react obviously different ways, and with the different variations of mixtures that we can have out there, there's just multiple MSDS sheets out there for whatever we want to use. So additionally, chemicals also have an MSDS label on which 4 important factors are shown: flammability, health, reactivity, and protective equipment needed. Now, on the first 3, the numbers used range from 0 to 4, with a 0 being a minimal hazard and 4 being a severe hazard. So here's an example of one type of label. As you can see, this chemical has a minimal hazard risk in all 4 categories to us. Now, the 0 on the protective equipment means that no protective equipment is required. There's also letters used, and on the next example I'm going to show you, I'll explain what that means. But in this case, the health, flammability, and reactivity ratings are all 0, meaning no potential hazard or limited potential hazard. Now, here's another one, and as you can see, we have the original one represented on the right. Now, on the left, this is just a straight up and down vertically written one that shows us the health, flammability, reactivity, and protective equipment ratings. Now, health, flammability, and reactivity here are given ratings of 1, which means they pose a slight risk, but nothing overly dangerous. Protective equipment is given a G rating. G means gloves, okay? Gloves and goggles, both, okay? Now, that being said, you should always wear goggles anyway, but wearing gloves can hurt you, even on chemicals that pose no risk.
Okay, so that gave a few details. I gave you a couple examples. Okay, so MSDS also has to have procedures for handling spills or cleanup or disposal of the product as well, and then also emergency first aid procedures for that chemical. Okay, so that concludes our first part of 13.2, which is OSHA. We looked at MyOSHA, we watched the video. We talked about the 2 main standards that can affect healthcare workers, which are the occupational exposure to hazardous chemicals standard, as well as the bloodborne pathogen standard, which we have not gotten to yet. Within the occupational exposure to hazardous chemicals, manufacturers have to have a material safety data sheet that go along with any hazardous product that they would sell. And we went through some examples of items that would be on an MSDS, and we showed that video. If you have any questions, please email me, bartonj@dearbornschools.org.